Next person I'm really, really proud to introduce is Kiran Gill, who's another one of the projects that we're supporting. This is Kiran. You may recognize her from the video. One of the animations in the video is based on Kiran, so it's a complete spitting image. I will let Kiran introduce the amazing work you're doing with Difference.
Thank you, Essie. Hi, I'm Kiran, and I'm the founder of The Difference. I was asked by Essie and Noah to come here and tell you a little bit about who I am, what's the difference, and why am I here? So I will start with a little bit about me. I was 11 when my sisters were adopted. They were 2 and 4, which is actually quite late to be adopted. And it was a very interesting childhood that I had, learning about what it's like to live with someone who's suffered early trauma in their life and how that affects their behavior, how that affects their relationships. And I also watched how that affected their schoolwork. And fast forward until until I was about 21, and I graduated, and I was inspired to be a teacher. And I did the Teach First program. I don't know, show of hands if you've heard of Teach First. Okay, great. Well, I won't labour the point then, but it's very similar to Frontline. Actually, Frontline's founder did Teach First, and it recruits incredible graduates to turn their passion into action. And Frontline does that in social work, Teach First does that in the classroom. So I was a young recruit off going to teach in a fantastically hard-working school, but working with a cohort of students who are really disadvantaged. And I absolutely loved it. I was part of a network of teachers who were like-minded and really kind of thought-provoking and innovative. And I was privileged to be part of a school that went from requires improvement, well, actually it was special measures and requires improvement when I got there, all the way to outstanding. And it was really incredible practice. But still, every day I'd come into school and I'd see a child and I'd think, we're not doing the right thing for that particular student. And I worked with incredible colleagues, but even still, I'd hear some of my teacher colleagues talk about their students, and I thought, gosh, they don't have the same experiences that I have of mental health, of child development. And it really got me thinking. So after 5 years in the front line, in the classroom and then leading, I went into policy to try and think about how we create a school system that allows children to thrive, not just in their exams. And while I was there, I worked for the Department for Education and the Social Mobility Commission, and I became really fascinated and really frightened by that pattern of that individual child I'd seen in the classroom all over the country. And actually, these are children who are 4 times more likely to grow up in poverty, 3 times more likely to be in care, and 4 times more likely to have a special educational need, 10 times more likely to have a mental health problem. These are children excluded from school. And they're not being touched at the moment by a lot of our education system. They end up being educated in schools for excluded pupils, and there are great people who work there, but there aren't enough of them. So if you're an excluded child, you are twice as likely to be taught by an unqualified teacher, and you're also twice as likely to be taught by a temporary staff member with whom you can't build a relationship. I became really kind of shocked by this, and I looked into educational outcomes, and only 1% of excluded children get the 5 good GCSEs they need to access the workforce. So, unsurprisingly, this minority of the school population goes on to become the majority of the prison population. You've got a 1 in 200 chance of being in a child who's in a school for an excluded student. You've got a 1 in 2 chance of being a prisoner if you had been excluded when at school. So this is a huge social justice challenge and a really complicated mess to fix. It needs a really, really big solution. So I came up with The Difference, and the program works with teachers like Danny. Where's Danny? Danny, give me a big wave. So Danny now works for me. Yeah, big wave. Yeah, actually, we should. Danny left Oxford to go and teach in Moss Side in Manchester as a maths teacher, and he was incredible. And he was there for 2 years, and then he came on to London. But after 3 years, he thought, just as I did, this system isn't right for the most vulnerable children. And what I do with The Difference is take someone like Danny and I put him on the Difference programme teaching in a school for excluded pupils. He's there for 2 years in the senior leadership team, bringing his maths expertise, but also learning the best practice from practitioners like Frontline in social work, from the best practice in child and adolescent mental health, so that Danny becomes an expert practitioner in working with the most vulnerable. And that's not where it stops. It's a system change programme. So after the 2 years, we helped Danny go on to become a senior leader back in a mainstream school, where he will become a head teacher equipped with this knowledge that my colleagues lacked about mental health and child development, that will allow him to be an inclusive leader, and crucially, as I was with Teach First, to meet peers that are really on the same level as me, helping me create a kind of network of people who know how to make this change in the education system. So, wow, are you all sold? What do you think? Great, I'm glad. Thanks. Because actually, we're not up and running yet. Yeah. So in January, this was my idea, and I was a small person with a big idea, but how was I going to turn it into a reality? And it was people like you, and actually you, these people here, I was asked, why am I here? I'm here because I'm a big changer. And it was Big Change who saw my vision and believed in it. And it chimed with their belief about what the education system needs to look like. And if I hadn't have met Big Change, I wouldn't be where I am today, because it's very hard. If you're an innovative company, there are loads of archangel investors who are like, yeah, great, this is going to make me lots of money because it's going to shake up the system and people are going to love it. But actually, often in public services, people only want to fund you if you've already been delivering. And you're only already delivering if you're working within the status quo and you're thinking in these kind of silos. So Big Change were exactly what I needed, that seed funding. And I'm also getting great people on board to make the big change element of what we do, creating those leaders that really are going to inspire and change the system. And I'm also at the stage where I'm now starting to recruit the teachers who are going to make the difference in classrooms up and down the country with the children that really need them the most. And that is 100% down to Big Change. So thank you very much. Thanks.